Hey folks, in this video we're gonna go through this quite interesting code example to gain more understanding into how the lifecycle works for class components. Let's have a look at what this code does. It contains two classes. I can tell you from the beginning that auth wrapper class renders user navbar class with this functionality. It passes the prop is auth so that it controls whether the side effect happens. Will the user navbar fetch user data as a side effect? So the parent class controls whether the side effect from the child class occurs or not. Okay, so here's the initial state with isAuth property. I hope you know what this is. This is a type of lifecycle method. What it does is after the auth wrapper class renders for the first time, you will execute whatever is inside of this lifecycle method. In this case, it will authenticate the child class using this isAuth state property, because it's gonna be used here to authenticate inside the child class. Okay, I hope it doesn't confuse you. I'll try to rectify that. So as I said, it renders user navbar component with the isAuth property passed onto it, to the child component. And here I hope you realize what this is. This is another lifecycle method, componentDidUpdate. What it does is it will do nothing for the first render, but in the subsequent rendering, after the render, it will execute whatever is inside of that method. In this case, it checks for authentication. If the auth wrapper passed down the authentication to be true, then it will do side effect inside, like fetch user data. Those are called side effects. So that's the outline of what these two classes do. So let's get on to the lifecycle bit. I'll try to go through it step by step. There's a question though that emerges when you think about the lifecycle of these two classes. Well, will the code fetch user data at all on the current state, how it is formed? Will you fetch data at all? That's one question. I'll answer that. The answer is yes. Now I'll try to explain how. So the first time auth wrapper class or auth wrapper component renders, it will render the child class, which is the user netbar component, and inside of the user netbar there's a render. So the user netbar will in turn get rendered to the screen. Okay. After the auth wrapper component and its child component user netbar get rendered, only after that will you invoke componentDidMount, and in this case you will be authenticated, or is true now. Okay, that happens after the first rendering of auth wrapper. Okay, on the second render of auth wrapper, well, you ask why does it cause re-rendering? It's because you've changed the value of its state, so it causes it to re-render. And after, okay, and as I told you, after the first render you are authenticated. Okay, on the second render this will get rendered, and then its child component user netbar will get rendered here, and only after the child component user netbar gets rendered, then this lifecycle method will get called. And as I said, now you are authenticated, so in this case you will fetch user data. So yes, the answer is yes, you will definitely fetch user data. Okay, let's see in action. Yes. So here, this is first time the wrapper gets rendered. It also renders the child component, which is user netbar, and inside the componentDidMount you authenticate the child. So it happens after everything has been rendered for the first time. You are authenticated because you've changed the state. It causes re-rendering of the parent, so it re-renders, and the child component user netbar also gets re-rendered. And because of what you've defined inside componentDidUpdate inside the child component, after the child component gets rendered for the second time, you will execute the side effect, which is fetching user data. And this will happen because you are authenticated by the parent component. Okay, isAuth is passed down as props to the child component, and it's set to true now. So yes, it will definitely fetch user data, and I hope that explains a lot. Yeah, so the key thing to take away from this, first is that componentDidMount only happened after the first render, and that means not only the rendering of itself, but also rendering of its child component user netbar. Only after that you are authenticated. And secondly, because you've changed the state, specifically isAuth is set to true now, it causes re-render. And same thing on the second rendering, the parent gets rendered, and also the child gets rendered user netbar. Okay, and after the child has been rendered, inside the child user.NET component, you've defined componentDidUpdate. What it does is, after the second rendering of the child component user.NET, it will execute whatever is inside here, and in this case it will fetch data, user data, if you're authenticated. And indeed you're authenticated, because after the first rendering you cause re-rendering by changing the equals to true, and because it is true, you are free to fetch user data as a side effect. Okay, thank you very much. I'll link both this code sandbox and in this document in the description. Thank you.